The Cuyahoga County Council Public Works Procurement and Contracting Committee is now called to order. Janine, would you please call the roll?
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Castleberry.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
There is a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right. Janine, has anyone signed in for public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion to approve our minutes from the June 18th meeting.
So moved. Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor of approving our minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, at this time, we have several matters that have been referred to committee, and Janine, if you read our first item into the record.
Resolution number 2025-0220, declaring that public convenience and welfare requires the resurfacing of Harvard Road from the Western Corporation Line to the Eastern Corporation Line in the village of Cuyahoga Heights.
All right, you have the floor.
Good morning, Nicole English from Public Works. The next four, I think, items are all similar in nature that NOACA earlier this year had updated their tip to go through 2029. So now it's a 2026 through 2029 tip. So the last 2 years, 28 and 29, got added to the previous tip. And so typical of what we've done in the past is once NOACA decides which projects they're going to fund, we take a look at that list and decide which ones we'd like to partner with cities on, particularly county road projects. And so that's what these next four items are. They're all county roads that we've worked with the cities over the last couple of months to develop a partnership on their federal aid funded projects. So the first one is Harvard from the whole length of the village of Cuyahoga Heights. The total estimate is about 2.3, almost 2.4 million. In general, we like to get an 80-10-10 split, 80% federal, 10% county, 10% city. However, sometimes NOACA has not funded the projects to that full 80%. So we are funding, we say 50% of the non-federal share. So we'll split whatever's not federal with the village or the city that the project is in. So this one happens to be where it's not fully 80%. It's only about 48% funded by federal. 26% would be county funding, 26 Cuyahoga Heights. And as always, as we get closer to the construction, because this project won't be constructed till 2029, we'll be looking at issue one for additional grant funding that would help offset both ours and the village's cost. But at this time, we're proposing this funding split. Happy to answer any questions.
Nicole, could you repeat those percentages again of funding?
48% federal, 26 county, 26 Cuyahoga Heights for this one.
All right, are there any questions from the committee?
I'll try one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman.
Thank you. Just, you come up with a formula, do you have the cities agree and they confirm that they have the dollar amount? And if they're short, they're bumped, or do you work with them to try to get their dollar amount because of the quality of the road?
Yeah, we work with the city, so that's what's taken a couple months since NOACA first announced the list. We've worked with their city engineers. We make sure the estimate we feel is good. And so the cities know too how much they're coming in to. We didn't have any city that said to us, we can't fund it. If they did, we've had in the past some cities where we've said, okay, let's look at how they score at issue one. We feel very confident you can get additional grant funding, or there has been times in the past where the county would step up and we would change our percentage. But in general, we like to just split the non-federal share with the villages. And the fact that it got on NOACA, if we didn't step in, they would have been responsible for that whole non-federal share. So in theory, they should have already agreed that they could have funded the project without our money. So this is kind of a bonus, like a win-win. Our money goes further, and then they get our help. And we actually run the construction for them, which is really advantageous for some of these smaller towns that don't get federal money a lot.
And through the chair, that's just a true partnership with your
Correct.
Department of Public Works, and you and Mike Dever just saying, hey, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And no one's left to the side because of the condition of the roads need to be done. So thank you.
You know, Marty, I remember back in the Fitzgerald administration, cities like East Cleveland didn't have funding, and although we had the dollars, they didn't have their 10%.
Correct.
You know, what it might have been. So their roads were going undone. I remember Fitzgerald just created a partnership with the city and other cities to help them match and meet that dollar amount.
Right.
So they could get their streets done.
Because it was a shame that some of them were turning away 80% federal money because they couldn't come up with that little
And
bit.
they're 10,
Right.
10 and they're 10. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Let's go right ahead, Councilwoman.
Through the chair to Nicole. So what about those cities that, where there's a road that's in between two cities. And one doesn't have it, but the other does.
The same thing. I mean, we'll work with them. We don't have that in any of these ones here. All of the cities, even there is a couple that passed through. I think one has 3 cities in it, that all the cities did say they had the funds and they would figure it out. But we try to work with them. You know, we don't want to not do a project because somebody can't come up with a small portion of money. So we typically are pretty creative in finding the grant funding through issue 1, or, you know, being able to supplement for them, or using our 50/50 program. Sometimes the city would say, could I apply for the 50/50 to cover my share? And if it scores, then we let them use that money too to put in. So we try to be creative to make sure the job gets done.
In terms of the issue 1, I know that's a committee that determines where those funds are. Do you have like a schedule? Who is supposed to get funds next?
It's a scoring criteria based on the project, so we have a good sense of what projects, where they need to be in order to fund, and so we can do an evaluation on how the score looks like it would come out early on, so we'll know if it will score well for the funding. But it is a scoring criteria that you have to you have to meet certain, you know, numbers in order to get funded. But there is a criteria in there, if you haven't gotten funding for like 7 years, you get the top score in the one category. So it's trying to help people who haven't gotten issue 1 funding in the past. But it really is a scoring matrix that you have to meet.
Thank you.
The construction begins and is completed in 2029, or?
Yes, this one would be a 1-season job in 2029. So once we get this through, we'll start designing it and then get it ready for 2029.
What was the condition of the road?
It is 67, which is fair on PCR, and last rehabbed in 1998.
Last constructed,
Yeah.
doing in 98?
Correct. And it's about 0.8 miles. I don't know if I said that.
Is this road a heavily driven road by trucks and?
Yes, this is if you've been to our Harvard facility where the county's maintenance yard is, this is right in front of that. So, and then it has, you know, kind of the steel mills and different manufacturing right over there. So it is a heavily traveled road by trucks.
Any further questions? All right, if not, we will entertain a motion. Council President?
I'll move. Refer the resolution favorably to the full council for second reading, not suspension.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution number 2025-0221, declaring that public convenience and welfare requires the resurfacing of Nottingham Dill Road from St. Clair Avenue to Euclid Avenue in the cities of Cleveland and Euclid.
Nicole English again with Public Works. This is similar, was added to the NOACA tip. It's also a 2029 job that would be anticipated to be constructed in 1 season. The total project cost estimate is $3.7 million. This one has 65% federal funding based on what NOACA awarded them. So that would leave 17% to the county, 9% to Cleveland, 9% to Euclid. And the current condition is 62, which is fair to poor, so a little bit worse than the one we saw before. And it was, it's unknown when it was last rehabbed. We don't have plans of when it was last resurfaced. So I'm guessing quite a while ago. So this one also, we worked with both cities, Cleveland and Euclid, to participate in the project, and they're both on board.
So through the chair, so they would do 5% each, or?
9% each, because we don't have the full 80 from the federal, so we only have 65%, and then we'll split that difference. And the project is pretty much half in Cleveland, half in Euclid. So the two cities then split the half of the half, I guess, of what's not funded federally. And this one likely will score pretty well at issue 1. Typically, projects in Cleveland, also with this condition that it has, and it has almost 14,000 vehicles on it. So this one looks like a really high candidate for issue 1. So I would guess these local funds will go down as we get closer. But the issue 1, you can only apply the year before. So we wouldn't know until about 2027 when we apply for the project if we actually would get the funds. But it looks good as far as how the program has been scoring lately.
14,000 daily?
Yeah, 14,000 vehicles a day. This is fairly high for a
What
city
was the
street.
daily travel of the previous
The
item?
previous one was 9,200.
That one is a little more truck heavy.
Correct. Yeah, I'd say the percent of truck on that Harvard is significantly higher.
Again, share the breakdown again of,
65 federal, 17 county, 9 Cleveland, 9 Euclid.
any further questions from the committee?
I'd like to, Mr. Chair, have my name added.
Let's add the councilwoman's name. And if there are no further questions, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to move this to full council on the second reading.
No, it doesn't need suspend. Yeah, second reading, regular.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And let's add my name to the first item as well, the Cuyahoga Heights item.
Resolution number 2025-0222, declaring that public convenience and welfare requires the rehabilitation of Rockside Road from 700 feet west of Lombardo Center to State Route 21 in the cities of Independence and Seven Hills.
Nicole English with Public Works. Again, another project that was added to the tip. This one, we worked closely with the city to figure out what is the right solution, because if you've been around a while, we did Rockside Road, we reconstructed this. When I first started working, I worked on the plan, so many years ago. But it doesn't necessarily need a full resurface, although NOACA had programmed the money in it. So we worked with the city engineer, and this is really going to be more of spot repairs. But Rockside Road, as you know, is a very highly traveled road, so 26,000 vehicles a day. And so in order to, while 5,000 seems like a lot for repairs, the maintenance of traffic and making sure that it's safe to do the work is going to, take up some of that money. So this one does have fully 80% federal, $4 million, 10% county, 8% independence, and there's a tiny little piece in Seven Hills, so 2% in Seven Hills on the west end. But it won't be a full resurfacing, because this was a total reconstruction of concrete road in the early 2000s. And so this will be kind of a cut out joints that the city of Independence has been doing a nice job of kind of cutting out repair places, areas of repair, fixing them so that the road doesn't go in bad shape too early. So this will be a continuation of what they've been doing in these section of roads. Another spring 29 project that would last the whole season of 2029.
And that was 80 federal, 2% Seven Hills, 8%.
Independence in 10 county. So this one ends up a true 80, 10, 10 split like we like. NOACA did fully fund this one.
What was the road condition?
The road condition says 73 fair. I would tell you that's a mix of, because there are some areas in Independence that are probably in better shape, but in general fair overall, once you average it.
What's the trigger? Is there a certain trigger?
How they fix. So NOACA has they use what they call a Transportation Asset Management Program. They call it the TAMP, in order to evaluate roadways. So they don't necessarily do the worst first. They factor in different things that include, the condition of the road, how many vehicles, what's around the road, as far as job sites, and, they use economic development. They use all sorts of tools that kind of feed into their model that then tell them what are their priorities. Then they present the full scope of roads to the board and the cities, and there's conversations that happen, and then finally a final list ends up on their tip. So it's a mixture of this model that they use, then community input, and then what makes it to the end. But it's not necessarily worst first in their model. They use a model that takes other things into consideration. So when we do our 50-50 program, we try to put a lot more emphasis on the worst roads, because we understand that cities have trouble getting them federally funded once they've kind of gone so bad that NOACA is not interested in funding them anymore. They think there's a sweet spot between when you fix a road and the costs still keeping, moderate. If it gets really bad, the costs go through the roof, and then they kind of aren't interested in funding them.
So if this is a spot repair, $5 million, it seems like a little.
It seems like a lot.
Why is that?
It's a 1.25 mile. it's like 8 lanes in some sections, so it's very wide, the road out there. And like I said, with that traffic volume that they have, I mean, to set up just their MOT, the maintenance of traffic zones, it's extensive. We're gonna pay a good amount in just coordination and making sure that the workers are safe. So it's a difficult road to work on. I would say that's what drives that cost up.
The safety component, the needed safety component?
Yeah, just with the amount of vehicles traveling and the width of that roadway. I mean, and the drives, you know, if you've driven, this is right around the 77 interchange, you know, where all those office complexes and every restaurant you might want to go to is out there.
I ask a question on
Sure, go right ahead.
through the chair to Nicole. So 5 million seems a lot, but if it was the total
Oh,
done,
Probably
what's our
20.
estimate?
I would
20?
say like 20 million if you redid. Yeah, with eight, 9 lanes, depending where there's turn lanes. I mean, it's really wide out
So
here.
we try to manage roads that would cost us a lot if we would let it go all the way down.
Correct. And that's where I said the city has been a really good partner out there. I mean, it is their maintenance responsibility because it's a road in the city, but they've done a good job maintaining the investment we made in 2000 in order to keep to this point. But at some point, you still have more to do. So this is kind of a bigger project than what they've been doing annually.
The chair, are these cities in our maintenance program?
Yes. Yeah, this year, I think all but 2.
All but 2? What are those 2 cities?
Solon is one, and I can't tell you the other one off the top of my head. And I know Solon, we've checked in a couple times, and they have reasons that they haven't gone after the money. We have checked with them. And, but I could let you know the other one.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the presentation, Nicole. I do want to ask, obviously, we all are a little surprised by the $5 million price tag, but these repairs are being done with concrete
Correct.
included? Okay, so
Yep.
it's a more expensive material?
Correct.
And then obviously, I know what the manpower and the setup to
Yep.
steer traffic around safety is paramount to our
And then how
people.
long it has to cure, you know, it's not
Yeah.
just an asphalt that you're doing and walking away.
Okay, so even though it's, I'm trying to justify that price tag, which seems to makes sense to me, especially with safety and the workers and people getting around the
Right.
traffic and the more expensive materials. But I just want to ensure that that was concrete, you
Correct.
said, yes.
Yep,
okay.
concrete repairs.
Thank you.
So they'll cut the joints out, you know, or the areas that need it, fill in with concrete, seal the joints around, and then get out.
Nicole, what is being used on the previous 2 projects?
Boy, let me see if I can tell you. I believe they're both asphalt resurfacings, because I think they both have asphalt right now. Because they're listing as resurfacing, yeah, so they'd be asphalt roads. So typically, when you rebuild a concrete road, you'd like to keep it concrete as long as you can, and then at some point, when it becomes where you can't do it, you either, if you replace the whole road, you decide what kind of pavement you're gonna use, or if you resurface over it, you end up putting asphalt over the concrete. So the first 2, they either already are totally asphalt roads, or at least they've already been resurfaced once, and so you kind of pull off the asphalt and put back down new asphalt. So the first 2 appear to be asphalt from what I'm reading.
So, and I'm referring back to the Cuyahoga Heights, since that's a heavily trucked, traveled area. Was there a conversation or a decision why asphalt, not concrete?
If it's already asphalt, unless you're gonna totally rehab the road where you dig the whole thing out and redo it, you would just redo it in asphalt at this time, if that's what makes sense, unless it's so bad that you dig it out. So this was determined that it still could handle another resurfacing, and so that's kind of the discussion. Now, if you were rehabilitating the entire road, like you're ready to pull it out, then you look at calculations based on, you know, because you can build a full-depth asphalt pavement that could handle trucks. You just look at a calculation as to what makes the most sense. And typically, if we're doing a total rehab on a road, we kind of let the cities drive that train, because some of them really like full-depth asphalt instead of concrete, because it's easier to maintain, and some like concrete. So if we were doing a full rehab, we work with the city and determine based on calculations which one they would like to choose. But in this case, it's already got asphalt on it, so typically you plane off about 3 inches of the asphalt that's there, put back 3 inches again, and you get a new surface.
On the previous 2 contracts, what are the length of the roads that are being worked on?
Nottingham is 0.73 miles, we were very exact there, and then Harvard is 0.8 miles.
All right, are there any further questions?
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Council President?
To Nicole. Since they don't always take the worst first, how many roads do we have that are in poor condition that aren't being done?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I could pull a map for you. That's our best way to look at that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions, we will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for second reading.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution number 2025-0223, declaring that public convenience and welfare requires the resurfacing of Warrensville Center Road from Maple Heights, NCL, to Wickfield Avenue in the city of Warrensville Heights, Village of Highland Hills, and the Village of North Randall.
Nicole English with Public Works again, another NOACA job that was added for 2029. This one does appear to be a two-season job, so it would be 29 and 30 because it is 2.2 miles of road. It's in fair condition, a 69 PCR, last rehabbed in 1996, so it's been a little while. It has just over 26,000 vehicles per day, and this is in 3 different cities, or a city and 2 villages. And so this one is anticipated 5.7 million of total project costs. We were able to get 70% federal, so we're splitting the non-federal share 15% county, 4% is in North Randall, 10% in Warrensville Heights, 1% in Highland Hills.
Last two one more time. North
10% Warrensville and 1% Highland Hills. And their shares are calculated by how much of the road is in each of those cities or villages. And so this one is asphalt also. It's already asphalt, so it will be a similar where you pull off, 3 inches or so and do some, you look and see if there's repairs that need to be done underneath the asphalt, do those, and then put the asphalt back down on top. Happy to answer any questions.
Further questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
is this also a 29 project?
It is,
One
but
season.
this one will take 2 seasons because of the length. We're showing that we're giving ourselves 29 and 30 to complete the construction.
What's the length?
2.2 miles.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And this is 4 and 5 lanes in different sections, so it's 2 lanes in each direction, sometimes a center turn lane, so it's wide as well, as long.
4 to 5 lanes.
Correct.
What was the road condition again?
69 fair.
Okay. Were there any goals attached to these road resurfacing projects?
There,
Minority goals, SMB?
when we put the bid out for construction, these, because they're federal, will come through ODOT. And you'll see in the next project that we're gonna go through, typically ODOT's been setting for road and bridge jobs 8% DBE is what they use. I don't know what will happen into the future. We're all trying to figure that out. But for now,
They're still in place as of this moment?
correct.
Okay.
But these ones won't be set officially until we submit our plans and are ready to bid, closer to, like, in late '28. That's when the goal would be set for these, because they get set by the state for the construction, because this is just starting the design right now.
We will deal with that moment when the moment comes.
Yes. We do locally fund the design of these, so we use our own, like, how you've seen in the past, the general engineering contracts that we bring forward, those goals are set by the county, and so the people designing the project, we still have those goals in place. That's who we use to design the projects, but then when it gets to construction, those are set by ODOT.
Okay. Any further questions? If not, we will entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And let's add Councilwoman's name to this. Sorry. She reminded me I should add my own name. So I will take the wise advice of my colleague. I will add my own name to this project. Thank you.
Resolution number 2025-0224, making an award on requisition number 15799 to the ruling company in the amount not to exceed $22,456,737.47 for the Rockside Road rehabilitation of existing bridge number 03.23 over the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad and replacement of existing bridge number 03.32 over the Cuyahoga River in the Village of Valley View and the City of Independence.
Nicole English with Public Works. So this is an actual construction award. We've been designing these bridges for as long as I can remember, and we're finally here to construct them. So we've been waiting for some federal funding to come through, and then also, we have a project right now going out Pleasant Valley Bridges, which is parallel to Rockside, and we didn't want them both to be shut down at the same time. So Pleasant Valley will open to two-way traffic later this year, then we can start this project, this Rockside Road Bridges project. So these are two bridges that we're doing. We had done a third bridge years ago. They're all in line, if you know, right around Lock Keepers. That's kind of the area that we're talking about on Rockside. So both bridges are rated a 5, which again, in condition rating, goes from 0 to 9, 9 being the best. So 5 is at a point where you really need to think about replacing them. If it goes down to 4, you're restricting traffic. We've been Band-Aiding these bridges together over the last so many years so that we don't have to shut lanes down, but they are in a place where we need to do this work. So we put the project out to bid. The engineer's estimate was $21.7 million. We got 3 bids that came in. The low bid is Rulin. They were 3.5% over. However, we feel the bid is good. The bids were all very close. The next highest bid was only about 200,000 over. So 20 over on a 22 million job within 200,000 is pretty close. So we thought that was good. This is funded federally, 65%, I believe. Let me get you the exact, 64% federal, 20% issue 1 we got for this project, and we are left with 16% county funding, which is about 3.6 million on the project. So because it's federally funded, ODOT sets the diversity goal. They did set it at 8% DBE, and Rulin is meeting that goal. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, yeah, and who set the DBE goal?
ODOT.
You said 64% federal? And what was it?
20% is issue 1 funding, and 16% is the county. Road and bridge.
Now, again, you mentioned 2 bridges, the Pleasant Valley one.
Pleasant Valley is a current project that's going on. That's just we're gonna start work on this project later this fall, once they open up to two-way traffic, because I know those cities are very concerned that we've kind of got them a bit in a traffic jam with Pleasant Valley being shut. So they run parallel, so that's just a separate project I mentioned. It really has nothing to do with,
Separate project,
Yes.
but they are open right now
they will be later this fall.
when we begin this project.
Yes, correct.
Got you.
Yep, so we're hoping that it doesn't cause too much problems for traffic going east-west in these cities.
Chair.
Yes, go right ahead, Councilwoman.
Through the chair to Nicole, just on the funding for the county motor vehicle license tax, if that should increase, do we get more money in our pot?
If the.
That should ever increase?
The tax, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did in 2019, I believe we enacted, the state had allowed for another $5 that we could go for, and we were the first county that did enact that $5. So we are at the max allowed by the state now for the license tax.
So $5.
Well, we added another $5, so there was, there's a $7.50, a $5, another $5. So we're at $17.50, I think, plus an initial 20. So it's been added on over the years, but we are at the max allowable by state for the license tax. So this is when you go renew your tag every year, we get a portion of that.
Okay, so why does it in the legislation only say 5 if we?
Because they're each segregated, the way they get them to it. So it's coming out of our $5 fund, but then we have another $5 fund and another $7.50. So it's just fiscal deciding where the pots of money have enough to come from. But it really is, we look at it holistically as far as how it funds our projects.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so one bridge is being replaced, the other is being rehabbed. How long will be the construction season for both?
A long time. These ones, they have until 2028, I believe, to finish. So likely this year, they'll order materials, again, with costs rising, they'd like to put their orders in as quickly as they can. So I will ask for second reading suspension, just so that we can get them moving, start ordering steel and different product, and then they really won't start construction until later this fall. So you won't see a major disruption until next season, so the whole season of '26, the whole season of '27, and then they'll wrap up in early '28. So it's lengthy, but it is 2 bridges on, again, a major road that they have to maintain traffic on, so it's complicated.
Any further questions?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman.
To Nicole, the county shares 16%, is that correct?
Yes,
So that's over 3 million.
yep.
So what is the source of the money other than the 1.596 million from the $5 license tag?
I don't know why it says only one, where are you reading the 1.5? Is that on the resolution?
It's on the second last line. It says,
Okay,
to authorizing to make an allocation from the county motor vehicle $5 license tag fund in the amount of $1,596,671.01 to fund said contract.
I don't know where that calculation comes from, so it really should be 15.88% times 22,456. I mean, that should be the calculation, so I don't know where the caption comes from. Yeah, I see where he, because this is right, the third whereas clause, the 15.88%. So it should be 15.88 times 22,456, which I get about 3.6 million for that. So I believe that caption is wrong.
So are you saying that the entire county share comes from the license?
It does.
Tax fund?
It does.
Okay.
So I think we need to update, the whereas, or the caption. And I rounded, my guess is 3.6, so I'd have to recalculate the number exactly, but it should be 15.88 times 22,456, 737.47.
Bless you.
So,
Let me see if I can.
do we need to make an amendment?
Yeah, I mean, it's 3,566, 129.91, but we can do it at the council, yep.
Joe Nani, County Council. What I was going to recommend, just to make sure that we're doing it correctly, is to do this at the council meeting before we pass it. That's okay with the group.
Yeah, the percent is correct down below. It's
Yeah.
just, I think that number in the caption is off.
I don't know, we'll just make sure.
Yeah.
Further questions?
I have one,
Yes,
Mr.
sure.
President.
Council
Was there
President, then
another question?
Councilman.
Okay.
Finish your thought, Councilman.
I was going to make a motion, so
Oh,
I'll
well,
yield.
let's-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned Roon was 200,000 over? Or no? was
200,000 over the second bidder.
Over, though. Why was the first bidder overlooked? The lowest bidder? Did I hear it right?
No, Brulin's the low bidder, so they
Got
were,
it.
3.5% over the engineer's estimate. The next bidder was Kenmore Construction, and they were 200,000 more than
Got
Rulin.
it. I thought I heard.
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And then the next bidder was about 1.3 million over the low. So, but they're close, pretty close for a $22 million job. We feel good about those bids, really.
Okay, thank
Close.
Through the chair, question to Nicole. So if the 15%, oh, where was my thought? If they're over the bid, never mind. I lost my train of thought.
Councilman Sweeney has you distracted over there.
The construction estimate, what was that number again?
That was 21.7 million,
1.7 million.
correct.
And we see the winning bid, it's here.
Yeah, about three, I think what did I calculate? 3.5% over? Yeah, 3.5% over the engineer's estimate.
And they were how much above the winning bidder was, you said was
About 200,000 over the second bidder, or lower, sorry, lower.
200,000 lower, right?
200,000 lower, yep. And that's really just to say that, sometimes you wonder where the bids are, if they're close, it makes you feel good that we have a good estimate, we have a good bid, that, we don't think there's any surprises. When there's big ranges between them, it makes you start looking at, did we miss something, or did they see something? But these being so close on a big job gives us confidence that they're good.
When they come in over the engineer's estimate, is there a certain trigger amount percentage-wise for you?
So it used to be 10% is all we can accept, and the state has now gone to 20% because they were having such trouble being able to accept bids because the bidding environment was going, up and down so quickly. So we still have the right to say no if it's more than, even if it's at 18% over, we could say no to it and rebid, but the state does now give us the right to go up to 20% over. And sometimes on low jobs, 20%, if you only have a job that's $300,000, 20% isn't as much. So it gave us a little flexibility on those lower cost jobs.
And then when it is over, sometimes you have a conversation as to why, to figure out if they thought something you didn't.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, and we'll look at, we get each of the items and what they bid versus what we thought they were gonna be. And so our engineers kind of review all of it to see if one item in particular really bumps it up. We take a look at that because we think, did they see something that's wrong in the plans that they're gonna try to, be able to take advantage of as they move forward? So we really dig into those bids if they're off from what we thought they should be before we would award the job. And then on this one, because it's federal money, ODOT also has to agree. So ODOT also looks at the bids and agrees that it's good to go.
Okay. All right, any further questions? Oh, what is the traffic, no, I'm sorry, what was the last time it was resurfaced or?
Well, these are bridges that were were built. I mean, boy, I'd have to go back and find. I mean, these are probably 50-year-old bridges, but I'll find you the dates.
Okay.
I have,
And is travel a necessary term on this, the average daily traffic?
Yeah, I would say it's similar to where we, a little bit less probably than the rock side that we presented earlier. So that was 26,000. I would think you're probably around 20 though. I mean, this is just to the east of where we just programmed the roadway job.
And next, the rating of 5. Tell me again what the scale is for this one as opposed to a road.
0 to 9, 9 being great, we just built it. And then lower is worse. So typically, when you get to 4, you have to start shutting lanes down. So we've really Band-Aided kind of doing some different repairs to keep it to that level of a 5, so we don't have to shut that down, because again, a major thoroughfare, we didn't want to be shutting lanes down before we came through with construction.
So 4 is a shutdown and you're at 5?
In general, yep.
In general.
You'd have some issues with 4s. Now, not always, but in general, 4 is where you really have major issues.
It goes from 0 to 4 and we're at 5, so they were not shut down? Or did I do that correctly? It's risen to a 4 where you potentially shut down?
Yeah, you start going down, right? So you rebuild a bridge, you're up at the top, around 9, then you start degrading down. And then if you go around, if you get down to about a 4, you start having problems where you might be shutting lanes down in general.
Got down to a 5, we had not yet gotten to 4.
Correct.
Okay. What's the name of the rating system for the bridge?
It's just our, right, long before my time. I'm trying to think just the general appraisal rating of a bridge. General appraisal is what we would call it. I don't know if it has anything more special than that.
Okay. Any further questions?
yes.
Yes, Ken.
So, Nicole, this is a large contract. What do we know about this company? Is it a local company? Have we done work with them in the past? Have they done well for us? What can you tell us?
We do. We've worked with Rulin in the past. They're a pretty well-known contractor around. They are located in Sharon Center, so not the county, but close. they work on a lot of ODOT job. If you are out and about on big highway projects, you'll see Rulin's work out there. So they've worked with us on past, typically bigger jobs they bid on. They're a big company, opposed to the smaller guys who do resurfacing, but they're well-known for construction around.
Have they worked for us before?
They have,
They have.
successful.
Have been satisfied?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we were happy to get the bids that we got on this project, knowing it's big, knowing it's complicated. We're happy with a bigger firm that can handle this work.
How much local participation did they hire into this project?
So we don't know, well, all we know is the 8% DBE that's set by ODOT. That's what's required. So we don't necessarily know local, because DBE by the state is covered in the state. It's not just related to,
Do we know
Our
SBE,
county.
which is local? Do we know the SBE percentage?
they don't have to give us those percentages. I could check on their subs and see, likely some of them are registered SBEs as well, but we don't necessarily check those because, again, Director Lockett's department, they don't review the DBE because the state does for us on the federal jobs.
Okay. All right, any further questions?
Chairman?
Council? Yes?
I'll make a motion to favorably recommend Resolution 2025-224 with recommendation for second reading suspension.
Properly moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2025-0226, authorizing the appropriation of real property in connection with the replacement of Lake Clifton Connector in the cities of Lakewood and Rocky River.
So my understanding is this is the item that is being withdrawn. At
Correct.
the administration's request.
Correct. Nicole English with Public Works. We were able to reach settlement with all these three property owners, and so we no longer need to appropriate. So we are pulling the item from council and moving forward.
Okay, all right. Go right
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Chairman. You reached a settlement for the exact dollar amount, or a little bit more, a little bit less?
It would be for the fair market value, because if it was going over that, we would have to come to council. So yeah, the fair market value. Most of them were not, that we were arguing over the dollar values. Like one was the Clifton Club, so they had to figure out how their board could sign off. They're all temporary takes. So it was who they needed to sign off. So it was just taking time, and we needed to be sure and to keep the project going. So none of them were really arguing over dollars. They were more trying to figure out legalities of who could sign the documents. And so that's why we put this in just in case, so that we wouldn't hurt the timeline of the project. But
And thank you, but the specific question, are the dollar amounts that are on that piece of paper the same as that we settled on? If not, you can tell me later.
I will confirm with you, but I believe
enough.
yes, because if it's not fair market, we do have to come to you to approve it, or at least go to Board of Control. So yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go right ahead.
what's the timeline on this project? And is it fully funded, or are we still looking for money for parts of it?
For Lake Clifton, fully funded now. We just got a new award from the state. I don't want to tell you the wrong amount, but I believe it's 1.5 million. We were awarded through their recent multimodal funds within the last month. And so that really finalized the funding for the project. So we have federal funding for a large chunk of it. Then we got this new state grant. The cities each have a small share, and then the county's putting in a small share too. But when we get the construction award, you'll see all of the funding, but I can forward you the latest on that.
And what's the timeline?
We plan to sell it this fall. So it'll go out for bid this fall, an award, then it would start construction next spring.
And how long will it take?
I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but I believe it's a year, but it might be two. So I'll get you that information. I'll send you a little update after
Okay,
this.
great, thank you.
All right, if nothing else, is there any miscellaneous business? All right, if nothing else holds our attention, our meeting is now adjourned.
Nicole, can